he said, as long as you are dreaming, you cannot lose the significance of living. And it seems to me that was what happened with you all as you discovered your path and your spiritual path, and that could be that was a vocation, that was a calling, that you would need to transform your life. Many people are looking for significance in their life, and we're living in very complex and difficult times. And people are in a lot of distress right now. Do you think that your job, your role as priest, is to help people understand how to understand their significance?
I think our job is to help people to be in relationship with the divine and with others, and that they learn that through those relationships.
I think part of our role is, wherever it's possible, to play the role that Lisa talks about when she refers to trail angels or trail guides, to help people establish what they think that path for them could be, not to tell them, but to help facilitate a process for them so that they can determine that. I won't say exactly how old, but we have children who are approaching their sort of middle of life. And let me just say that all of them have either or are in the process of, and so many of their friends are reevaluating their lives at this point, realizing that so many things that they thought were best for them to pursue, to chase, are just not fulfilling for them. And when we talk to them, we're not telling them what they should do, but we certainly encourage them to keep opening themselves up to this awakened awareness. And some of them seem to be doing that very well on their own, which has been very inspiring for us. And we learn from them too, but it's just been, I think, something that is becoming more obvious to them and to us as we see them, that they are saying, wait, I need to think about it. And some of them now are meditating, some of them now do a lot more praying. And the whole point of that is, how can I figure out what that voice inside me is telling me that I should be, opening myself up for.
And what is the process? Dr. Miller talks about meditation and different modalities. She speaks a lot about nature, about going outside and sitting and walking and being a part of the environment. What does that mean in terms of practicing Christian faith? There is a lot of going into the wilderness in the Bible, right? There's a lot of going out into nature.
Yes, because that is one way that God, that the Holy, is revealed to us. And we were made to be natural beings. We weren't made to be surrounded by concrete all the time. A researcher named Gregory Bratman noticed that there is a correlation between increased urbanization and increased mental illness. And so he did a number of studies that showed that, yes, in fact, walking in nature as opposed to walking in an urban core is much more healing, that it reduces anxiety, that improves people's affect, their mood, that it can help with things like addiction.
Yes.
And so I think it is important for us to make sure that we are always making time and space to engage with the natural world.
I think the stimulation we receive when we are in nature is radically different than the stimulation we receive when we're in an urban environment. So instead of the constant bombardment of sound and people and that sort of thing, you're just dealing with nature. And I think that allows for us to be more aware, awakened,
yes,
than we are when we're in an urban environment, when we are surrounded by people and vehicles and buildings and technology and all of those things. I don't think it's. I don't think it's an accident that when people are best, feel best. Like you go for a retreat, for instance.
Yes.
It's not going to be in a concrete jungle, right? You're going on a retreat in a quiet, usually natural place.
Yes.
Because that way you're able to reduce all of that stimulation that you're receiving.
Yes, the sound, the vibration, the noise, the things that inflame you.
It's why your heart rate and your blood pressure are higher in those urban environments than it is when you're in a natural environment.
Right.
And we have some wonderful Christian examples. You have someone like St. Francis of Assisi who demonstrated for everybody that just all he wanted to do was be alone in nature with animals and with trees and so on, because that would be a wonderful calming place, but it would also be a way that he could connect with the divine most easily.
We've been chatting a little bit with a few friends from the church and letting them know that we're creating this podcast, this space. And so a few people have reached out and asked me, well, I'd like to ask a question that maybe I wouldn't ask in person for whatever reasons. And so do you think I could ask you a couple questions that I've had a couple parishioners share with me?
Of course, I am happy to make up answers anytime.
Okay.
And if this is less scary for them, absolutely.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was so scary. But
no, I don't think it's about you being scary, either of you. I think you're not at all scary. I think it's about being self-conscious. Mm-hmm. I think it's about people feeling like, is there something not right with me for wondering about this? Does everybody else get this, but I don't? Mm-hmm. And also because, often, unless you make an appointment to see one of you privately, you're typically there with other people. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes you don't want to share your most intimate concerns or worries. So one of the questions is a parishioner who is struggling with depression, and they have a kind of shame about feeling depressed, right? They said they feel ashamed about being depressed. They feel as though they have so much, but they don't know why they're depressed. And then the other part of it is that they are perpetually worried about what's happening in the world. So they've stopped watching the news, and then they're worried about not watching the news. and then they feel bad about the fact that they feel this sadness. So I thought maybe both of you could answer.
So you're inviting us to provide some guidance
Yes.
to that person?
Based on what we observe in chapter 14.
Mm-hmm. So we know from numerous studies that mental health challenges often result from a lack of spiritual practice and a lack of spiritual connection. We find that in order to be open and awakened to the world and to be healthy, there are certain practices in which we can engage. Prayer is one. Prayer is building our relationship with the divine. Singing, engaging in creative pursuits, whether it's artwork or musical, whether it's dance, writing poetry, walking in nature, which we've talked about, meditation, that's my personal go-to. I believe that because I intentionally meditate each day, I have been able to put aside, to some extent, that little me, that ego part of myself, and
Yes.
become more my true self.
Yes.
The self that I am with Christ. And that has enabled me to engage with the world and to see the beauty in the world and the truth in the world. because the news, that's only a little bit of life.
Yes,
you know.
yes.
And we need to have some idea of what's going on, but we don't need it 24/7.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There was a woman named Cheryl Gaver who's a United Church minister, and one of the things that she said that really stuck with me is that it's news because it's exceptional, because that's not what most people's life experience is. Most people are loving and kind and helpful, and the things that make the news are often negative because they're not.
And because they're exceptions to the norm.
That's right.
Oh, I love that.
I also love the fact that she was a minister at our church at St. Cuthbert's for years, and she related so well to young people, especially youth, because she was unique as well. So
Yes.
the fact that she's talking about exceptional, she was exceptional, and she connected with these young people so amazingly well. The only other thing I might add to what Sue-Ann said, because I think she said almost everything that I could think of, was that people who are struggling with life and are feeling depressed, or at least feeling down, we did talk before about engaging in community, but healthy community, and doing things that are helpful to other people. Altruism can really be helpful when people have that sense of being overwhelmed, because you're first of all, you're getting out of yourself, and second of all, I think all of us respond well when we help others, and we know that. We just had a dinner for the Kerr Street Mission last week, and everybody who was engaged in that just felt so uplifted after they had engaged in that activity, partly because they were connecting with neighbors they would otherwise never connect with. And just that they worked together as a community as well, so they got to know each other better. But it just took them away from what they had been dealing with every day, all day. But it put them in a very healthy space, doing something very helpful for people who really needed their help.
Well, it makes you feel alive, and to feel and see someone else benefiting from your service. That does not cost money. It costs your time and your presence.
I think people feel good when they do that because they feel like they have a real sense of purpose.
Yes.
They have a worthiness of value, because what I just did helped these other people in a really important way. Therefore, I feel much better about me.
I think it's also about living in the now.
Yes.
When you're engaged in assisting somebody else, you're paying attention to who they are in the moment, their current situation. And spiritual practices are designed to keep us in the current moment, to allow us to let go of what we might have been ruminating about, all those things that we lamented that we should have done differently, could have done better, whatever, or worrying about the future, what might happen. Which likely won't, but what might happen.
Yes, and that you can't control.
And that you can't control. But to stay in the present, I mean, that's where our comfort is. That's where we can experience joy and peace. And I think that part of the reason why nature is so healing is because when we're in nature, we're often in the moment. We're marveling at the beauty of the flowers and how birds can fly and the majesty of the trees and how everything works together.
Yes.
So we're not ruminating and we're not worrying. We're living
in the moment.
In the moment.